Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today I'm looking forward to this one because I'm going to be looking at a band called Ward 16. Now this is a band that I am very familiar with. I have actually played a number of gigs with this band. I'm actually quite good friends with one of the members of this band, and on Friday of this week, the 25th of September, they will be releasing their second album called Metamorphosis. Now, this is it's very hard to sort of pin a genre onto this band because they're sort of mix of sort of avant-garde rock, carnival rock, shock rock, horror rock, bit of heavy metal thrown in there. You know, they're all over the place. But that's not a bad thing. They're a really great band. Like I say, I've performed at gigs with them in the past. They've got quite an intense live stage show. They've played at things like Bloodstock Open Air, as far as I'm aware. So you know, they're not like an unknown band, but I don't think they're widely enough known, in my opinion. So the members of the band at the moment is there's Psycho Berry, who is the vocalist, Dr. Von Stottenstein, who is the guitarist, and Wolfie Huntsman, who happens to be my friend, on the bass. Now, it says there's only 3 members of the band, and you might have noticed, no drummer. Now, when they released their first album, The Art of Manipulation, in 2017, they had a completely different, or not a completely different band lineup, but they had other members of the band, like the bassist was a different guy, they had a drummer, you know, and stuff like that. So for this album, they've had to bring in a few guest musicians, but it doesn't at all detract from the album. The album itself is actually very good. I wrote a review for the album on my Facebook page a couple of days ago, where I actually gave the album a very good review, and you know, people might think that I'm biased because they're a band I know and I'm friends with some of the members, but it is genuinely a very good album, as you'll see from the video we're going to look at. So the track that we're going to look at is a track called Shadows. Now, I will say this, it is part of a concept album. Both the first album, The Art of Manipulation, and this album, Metamorphosis, are both concept albums, and they tell different chapters of a story, and I'll explain that after we've watched the video. So we'll jump to the video, and then I'll sort of discuss what it's all about afterwards. So this is Shadows by Ward 16. There we go. Shadows by Ward 16. Now, like I said at the beginning, this is a concept album, and this second album is sort of technically, it's a sequel to the first one, but it's also kind of worked as a prequel in its own sort of way. I'll explain what I'm talking about here. Now, the first album, The Art of Manipulation, was basically chronicling the confessions of a serial killer, Psycho Berry, which is the last that you saw in the video, and it's also the singer of the band. So it's, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, throughout the first album, which was 16 tracks long, actually, it was quite a long album. It was a very, very good album as well. You know, it's sort of chronicling her confessions throughout her serial killer phase, as it was. Now, this album, when the album actually opens up, it starts with a psychiatrist talking to Psycho Berry, asking her to describe her childhood and stuff like that. So this album is sort of her describing her life from when she was just like a toddler up to, you know, the moment that she actually sort of snapped and turned into this serial killer. And this track, Shadows, is actually the last track on the album. And like I said, the album itself it's so good and it's so varied. You know, this is actually possibly one of the more normal sounding tracks on the album. Like I said, there's you know, you've got bits of avant-garde, you've got carnival sort of circus music in some of the tracks, you know, there's like accordions and stuff in the music, you've got horror, shock, you know, all that sort of thing mixed in throughout the album. It's such a good album. I really suggest that you listen to it when it comes out. It is so good. And, you know, I'd suggest getting the first album as well, because, you know, the two albums sort of work together. You know, you listen to Art of Manipulation, then Metamorphosis, you know, it gives you the sort of expanse of the story, and there are certain songs from like Art of Manipulation that actually work alongside songs on this Metamorphosis album. You know, it's very, very cleverly put together. The whole story has apparently been planned out since way before the first album was ever released. So there's a whole series of these apparently planned on coming out. So I'm really looking forward to those. But anyway, now you've got the sort of basic idea of what the story is about. Like I said, the album is about her basically going back and telling the psychiatrist about her life and what led her up to the moment to becoming a murderer. So the song goes, "Did you ever hear the songs she wrote to me? A faded, distant memory now haunts me. She still sings to me. The white walls contain me. They think I'm insane. Me. They say it's for my own safety. They hate me. He." Now, did you ever hear the songs she wrote to me? This is a sort of reference to the fact that, you know, she grew up with her mother and no father, as far as I remember. But, you know, during her formative years, her mother tried to take care of her, tried to look after her, but she sort of broke down after a while and sort of became addicted to something or other. I'm not entirely sure what. You know, she went through addiction, and, you know, all throughout her childhood she was craving her mother's love and affection, and her mother did love her, but she was a bit sort of not necessarily right, and so the child was then haunted through her life through like demons, the monsters under the bed. I mean, there is a song called Mr. Babadook, and if you've ever seen the Babadook horror film, you know, that sort of gives you some idea what's going on. You know, like this little girl in her room seeing this monster in her room and, you know, tormenting her, that sort of thing. So, you know, from a young age she started to experience this sort of disturbing behaviour, and this is, you know, she went looking for like the safety and whatnot, and instead all she found was monsters and demons and stuff like that. So when she says, "Did you ever hear the song she wrote to me?" she's talking about her mother, and, you know, and it says she still sings to me, so she still has that memory of her mother in her head, the songs that she used to sing. So she, you know, she still constantly plays that in her head, so it's something that's always there at the back of her mind. And then there's the white walls contain me, they think I'm insane, me. This is obviously a reference to the padded cell that you saw in the video. Anyway, it carries on. I scratch the walls with my fingers. I have to escape the lightning and the thunder. The doctor, he's coming for us all, and the sisters, they can't see his spell that they're under. The white walls contain me. They think I'm insane. Me. They say it's for my own safety. They hate me. He rapes me. So yeah, whether that's a literal sense of, I'm assuming it's probably the doctor she's referring to there, whether it's a literal sense or a sort of figurative, like messing with her mind, you know, trying to get into her head, I'm not entirely certain. Anyway, it carries on. What did I do to deserve this fate? I was such a lovely little girl. I've been crying out for days. No one's coming. No one's coming to save me anymore. Shadow, 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 you're my only friend. Shadow, 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 you're my only friend. So, you know, she's immediately asking the question, what did I do to deserve this fate? Like, what did I do to deserve my life going the way it did? You know, I was such a sweet, lovely, innocent little child. Whatever did I do at such a young age to have to go through such difficult times, to have to watch my mother like fall under this under the weight of addiction and stuff like that? What did I do to deserve this? You know, I did nothing wrong in my younger years. You know, why did I have to suffer so much? And you know, this is what's led me to become what I am. You know, she's saying, I've been crying out for days, no one's coming to save me anymore. So, you know, she's like been crying out for help, you know, pretty much for most of her life, you know, looking for someone to help her, someone to save her, someone to sort of make her feel safe. But, you know, no one ever sort of reached out, no one ever sort of came to her aid when she really needed it. And she says that, you know, Shadow, you're my only friend. So, she feels like she literally has no one, and her only friend is her shadow. Or maybe these demons and monsters that she's been tormented by all her life. It carries on. Shadow, don't leave me. Shadow, please don't leave me. You're my only friend in this whole world. Shadow, don't leave me. Shadow, shadow, shadow. What did I do to deserve this fate? I was such a lovely little girl. I've been crying out for days. No one's coming. No one's coming to save me anymore. Shadow, 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 shadow. Did you ever hear the song she wrote to me? She cared a lot about me. How did life become such a scary, scary, scary dream? So right at the end there, she goes right back to the sort of first verse where she says, did you ever hear the songs she wrote to me? She cared a lot about me. So she knows her mother loved her. She knows her mother cared for her. She just didn't have the capacity to provide for her enough, to take care of her enough, because she was suffering with her own problems. And she goes, how did life become such a scary, scary, scary dream? It's like, you know, how did this happen? You know, everything was so perfect and idyllic in the first place, and then everything sort of just fell apart. How did this happen? Why did life turn so bad and so foul? So, you know, it's a great song, and it's a great exploration into the character, because like I say, in the first album it was just a sort of confessions of what she'd done, whereas this album sort of more deeply sort of delves into the story of Psycho Berry, and you know, how she became who she is, you know, all the different sort of tormentors that sort of warped her life into what she is now. And you know, it is a really, really good album. I really do suggest that you check it out. You know, I'll put a link to their Bandcamp below, so if you want to go and pre-order this album, you can do that. Like I said, it's released this Friday on the 25th of September. You know, I think it's well worth it. You know, it's such a great album. It's just shy of an hour long. I think it's 11 tracks, this one. But like I said, the first album, Art of Manipulation, 16 tracks, it's fantastic. I think it's like $9.99 on their Bandcamp. You know, it's brilliant. You know, it's so good, and the variation throughout the album. You know, like you've got sort of soft ballads, you've got sort of really sort of heavy thrashy tracks. There's even an operatic track in there somewhere. You know, and this sort of displays the sort of fractured mentality of the Psycho Berry character. You know, the way they've arranged the music. You know, even just the sounds of the tracks. You know, the different styles they've used throughout the different tracks. It really sort of describes the sort of fractured and fragile mentality of this woman, you know, this Psycho Berry character, and it's fantastic. I really think you should check it out. They do have other videos on YouTube as well that you can check out, like the Mr. Babadook track as well. There's some videos from their Bloodstock open air appearance as well, I think. So, you know, go and check them out, and if you like what you see, go to their Bandcamp and maybe pre-order the album, maybe buy their first album. They are really good. It's so good. But anyway, I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. Drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would be of great help to me. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There are a couple of limitations on that, just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through regular means. Otherwise, you know, they might never get a chance to have their suggestion looked at. And if you do suggest a track through those regular means, now it might take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many tracks every single day that, you know, I can't get to the, you know, I can't record all the songs fast enough, but I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those involving people of the alternative culture. Now, obviously, they want to put an end to all hate crimes, realistically, but their main goal is aimed towards people of the alternative culture, because it's something that gets so widely ignored, and it's such a real problem that's getting ignored. You know, they want to bring more attention to it, and, you know, something I believe in very, very strongly, something I am very firmly behind, because it's something I have had to deal with personally myself, as have members of my family, some of my friends, even some of you watching. And this is the fact that people from the alternative culture are getting violently attacked just purely for the fact that they listen to different music and wear different clothing. And we're not just talking about simple little things like getting shoulder-rammed or names shouted at them from across the street. We're talking about real violent crimes. Like, people are getting severely injured. You know, people are getting hospitalised. People are going into hospital with broken bones and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries just because of their taste in music and clothing. And, you know, like I said, this is something that's been going on for years. It's been going on for decades and is just so widely ignored. But, you know, something needs to be done about it. I mean, every single day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, you know, all of these sort of things we hear on a daily basis, from like the most violent and heinous of these crimes to, like, where someone is murdered because of the colour of their skin, because of their sexual orientation, or because of their religion, down to the most petty and pathetic of these crimes, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. You know, we hear every facet of these crimes on a daily basis in all media platforms. But we don't hear anything about these people that are getting violently attacked just because of their taste in music and clothing. You know, the last time there was widespread coverage of this was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked by a group of people who beat them, punched them, kicked them, and stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in a coma. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember exactly how long. But Sophie Lancaster was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death by a group of people just purely for the fact that she listened to heavy metal music and wore alternative fashion. And it's disgusting that that sort of thing happens. But it is something that's been going on for years. It still goes on. It's something I've been dealing with for nearly 30 years of my life. But we never hear anything about this. You know, this happened 13 years ago, and that's the last time we heard anything about it. But in those 13 years, several dozen, maybe several hundred people from the alternative culture have been attacked in a similar fashion, but we've just never heard anything about it because no one died. And that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before we talk about this, before something gets done about this. I mean, about a year or two ago, there was a young woman in Glasgow who was running a charity event, and she had to go back to her home, her apartment, which was a 5-minute walk away from the venue at one point during the night. Now, she left the venue to go back to her home. Like I said, it was a 5-minute walk away, and she was attacked twice by the same group of people. And as I said, a group of people. It is always a group of people. These people are cowards, and they always attack in groups. They never attack one-on-one. They always attack in a group. But this group of people, again, like with Sophie Lancaster, beat her, punched her, knocked her to the ground, and carried on wailing on her while she was on the ground, cowering, trying to protect herself. You know, and they did this to her twice in the time that it took. 5 minutes between the venue and her home, and she was attacked twice by this same group. And the only thing that saved her was a passing taxi driver who put an end to it. But the thing is, the taxi driver didn't even stop to check if she was okay. As soon as this group of people dispersed, he was gone. And this young woman got back to her apartment and then went back to the venue, and everybody was like, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened to you? Where was this in the news? Why did we not hear about this? This young woman, I can't remember how old she was. I think she was about 24. I can't remember exactly. This young woman could have just as easily gone the same way as Sophie Lancaster. She could have been brutally beaten to death. This young woman could have died on the street at the hands of this group of cowards who beat her so severely just for the fact that she was, part of the alternative culture, for the fact that she wore alternative fashion and listened to heavy metal music. Why wasn't this in the news? Why didn't we hear anything about it? It's unacceptable that this is ignored, because by ignoring it and not doing anything about it, we're letting these people get away with it. We're essentially saying, it's okay, you carry on, because we're not going to do anything. And that is unacceptable. That, we cannot allow that to happen. We can't let what happened to Sophie Lancaster ever happen again. It's something that never should have happened in the first place. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is happening so they can stop it from ever happening again. Because they don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. We can't allow this sort of thing to continue, and something really, really needs to be done. And it's really important that something does get done, because how long is it going to be before somebody else gets beaten to death? How long is it going to be before somebody is murdered just because of their taste in music? It's something I've never understood. But what is it about the fact that someone likes different music that sets these people off? They don't attack people because they like different movies or TV shows or books or, crisp flavours. They don't attack people because of that. What is it about the fact that they like different music that triggers these people to commit these violent attacks? It makes no sense. And it needs to change. Something needs to be done. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them in any small way, obviously you don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it's something as simple as one of these wristbands, or maybe even this one, should you desire it, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we get something done about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.